The sky splits open. Water pours from above like the heavens are being emptied. The ground cracks apart and oceans erupt from beneath the earth. Every city, every village, every living thing is being swallowed. You're floating inside a wooden box you built with your bare hands while the entire world laughed at you. Nobody believed you. Nobody listened. Now everyone who mocked you is gone, and you're the only reason life still exists on this earth. This is how you got here. You live in a world that has lost its mind. Violence fills the streets. Corruption poisons every transaction. Cruelty has become entertainment. The powerful crush the weak and call it progress. Men kill each other over scraps and women in territory, and nobody even flinches anymore because it's just the way things are. The earth is full of wickedness, and wickedness has become so normal that nobody notices it except you. Your name is Noah. You're 600 years old, and you are the only righteous person left on the entire planet. You didn't ask for this. You didn't volunteer to be the last good man standing. You have a wife. You have 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. You live a quiet life. You grow crops. You tend animals. You try to do what's right in a world that has forgotten what right even means. And one day, without warning, God speaks to you, not through a prophet, not through a dream, directly, and what he tells you changes everything. The world you know is ending. Every living thing on Earth is going to be destroyed. A flood is coming that will wipe the surface of the planet clean. Everything dies. Everyone dies. Except you. Except your family. But only if you do exactly what he tells you. He gives you instructions. Build an ark, not a boat. An ark, a chest, a floating vessel the size of nothing anyone has ever seen. 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. That's 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. 3 decks, 1 door, a window near the roof, covered inside and out with pitch to make it waterproof. You're not a shipbuilder. You've never built anything bigger than a barn, and God is telling you to construct the largest vessel the ancient world will ever see. In the middle of dry land, nowhere near the ocean, to prepare for a flood in a world that has possibly never seen rain. The impossibility of it is staggering. And you say yes. You start building, and the moment you start, the world starts laughing. Your neighbors come to watch. They see you cutting timber, hauling beams, shaping wood into the skeleton of something enormous in your field. They ask what you're doing. You tell them. You tell them God spoke to you. You tell them a flood is coming. You tell them everything on earth is going to be destroyed. And they laugh. They laugh so hard they double over. They slap each other on the back. They call their friends to come see the crazy old man building a boat in the desert. And the laughter doesn't stop. Not that day, not that week, not that year. For decades you build, and for decades the world mocks you. Your sons help you, your wife stands by you, but beyond your family you are completely alone in your belief. There's not a single person outside your household who thinks you're anything but insane. People walk by your construction site every day and shake their heads. Children throw rocks at the hull and run away laughing. Merchants charge you double for supplies because they know you're desperate and they think you're crazy. Former friends cross the street to avoid you. Neighbors whisper when your wife walks through the market. Your sons' wives endure the shame of being married into the family of the village fool. You become the joke of the entire region, the lunatic with the boat in the desert, and every single morning, no matter how heavy the shame or how loud the laughter, you wake up and walk to the ark and pick up your tools and keep building. Day after day, year after year, decade after decade, because God told you to, and that's enough. Even when every human being on earth tells you you're wrong, even when your own hands shake with exhaustion and doubt, the voice that told you to build is louder than all of them combined. The construction takes years. Nobody knows exactly how many. Some say decades. The timber alone takes years to harvest and prepare. The pitch takes months to gather and apply. Each of the 3 decks has to be designed to hold animals, food stores, and fresh water for an unknown duration. You build stalls and pens and nesting areas. You stockpile grain and dried food. You waterproof every seam. You work with your hands until they bleed, and then you work some more. The ark grows in your field like a mountain of wood, towering over the landscape, visible for miles. A monument to faith that the entire world sees as a monument to madness. And then God gives you the next instruction. Gather the animals. 2 of every unclean kind, 7 pairs of every clean kind, male and female, birds, livestock, and every creature that moves on the ground. They will come to you, God says, and they do. From every direction, animals begin arriving at your ark, walking, crawling, flying. Pairs of creatures you've never seen before. Lions walking beside deer, eagles landing on the same beam as sparrows, snakes coiling quietly next to rabbits. The impossible parade of living things, guided by a force you can't see but can feel, streaming toward the massive wooden vessel in your field. Your neighbors stop laughing. Some of them, anyway. The others laugh louder to hide the chill running down their spine. You load the animals onto the ark, deck by deck, stall by stall. The lower deck for waste and heavy animals. The middle deck for your family and the clean animals. The upper deck for the birds and the creatures that need light. You store the food. You fill the water containers. You check every seal, every joint, every plank. And when everything is aboard, when the last animal has walked up the ramp, God tells you to enter the ark with your family, your wife, your 3 sons, their 3 wives, 8 people in total. 8 people out of every human being on the face of the earth. You walk up the ramp, and behind you, God shuts the door. Not you. God. The door closes, and you hear the seal lock into place. You're inside. The world is outside, and now you wait. 7 days. For 7 days after the door is sealed, nothing happens. You sit inside the ark surrounded by animals and silence and the sound of your own breathing. The world outside continues as it always has. People eat and drink and marry and fight and steal and kill. They pass by the ark and see its door sealed shut, and they shake their heads one final time at the old fool locked inside his wooden box with a zoo. Some bang on the hull and yell jokes. Others have already forgotten about you entirely. 7 days of silence inside the ark. 7 days of feeding animals in the dark. 7 days of doubt that you push down every time it rises in your chest like bile. 7 days of your wife's eyes asking the question she's too loyal to speak out loud. 7 days of wondering if you've thrown away your entire life, your reputation, your sanity, everything, on a voice that only you can hear. And then on the 7th day, the sky changes, and nobody is laughing anymore. It starts with the clouds darker than any you've ever seen, rolling in from every direction at once, stacking on top of each other until the sky disappears. Then the ground begins to shake, not an earthquake, something deeper, something beneath the earth itself breaking open. The fountains of the great deep burst forth. Water erupts from the ground in massive geysers, splitting the earth, flooding valleys, swallowing fields. And from above, the windows of heaven open. Rain. Not rain like you've known it. Rain like the sky is being emptied. Sheets of water so thick you can't see through them. The sound is deafening. Water hammering the roof of the ark from above. Water surging against the hull from below. And then the ark begins to move. It lifts off the ground. It floats. The impossible vessel you built with bleeding hands over years of mockery is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's saving you. Outside, the world is dying. The water rises and nothing stops it. Fields vanish under brown churning water. Roads disappear. Houses are swallowed whole. Trees go under one by one. Hills are covered. Mountains begin to shrink. The people who laughed at you are running now. Running to higher ground that gets lower every hour. Climbing rooftops that are already underwater at the foundation. Clinging to anything that floats, logs and doors and barrels, but nothing holds for long. Families are separated by currents. Children are swept away. The screams mix with the roar of the water until there are no more screams. The water keeps coming. 40 days and 40 nights of unbroken rain. And beneath it all, the deep keeps pouring up from cracks in the earth that will never close again. The entire world. Everything you knew. Every village, every city, every person who mocked you. Every merchant who overcharged you. Every child who threw stones at your hull. Every friend who abandoned you is gone. Swallowed by a silence that is louder than any flood. Inside the ark, you hear it all. The rain on the roof, the waves against the hull, the creaking of wood as the vessel pitches and rolls on water that now covers the highest mountains. The animals are restless. Your family is terrified. You feed, you clean, you maintain, you pray. The ark has no rudder. No sail, no way to steer. It goes where the water takes it, and you trust that wherever that is, it's where God intended. For 150 days, the water holds its level. 5 months of floating on an ocean that has no shore. 5 months of darkness and noise and animal sounds, and the weight of being the only people left alive on a drowned planet. And then God remembers you. That's how the scripture puts it. God remembered Noah, not because he forgot, but because the time of judgment was complete and the time of mercy had come. He sends a wind over the earth. The rain stops, the fountains close, the water begins to recede, slowly, inch by inch, week by week, until one day, with a sound that echoes through the entire vessel, the ark settles. It comes to rest on the mountains of Ararat, solid ground beneath you for the first time in 5 months. You feel the stillness. You hear the quiet. The journey isn't over, but the worst of it is. You open the window near the roof and release a raven. It flies out in circles, going back and forth, finding no place to land. You wait 7 days and send a dove. The dove returns with nothing, because the water still covers everything. You wait another 7 days and send the dove again. This time it comes back with an olive leaf in its beak, fresh, green, alive. Proof that somewhere out there, the earth is coming back. You wait 7 more days and send the dove a third time. It doesn't come back. It found a home. The world is drying. The earth is healing. And you are still alive. God speaks to you again. Leave the ark. Bring your family. Release the animals. Let them spread across the earth and be fruitful and multiply and fill the land again. You open the door that God sealed shut over a year ago. Light pours in. Real light. Sunlight you haven't felt on your skin in over 12 months. The warmth hits your face and you close your eyes and stand there, breathing air that smells like rain and wet earth and something green growing somewhere in the distance. You step out onto the mountain and you see a world scrubbed clean. No cities, no roads, no people, no corruption, no violence, no laughter, no cruelty, just earth and sky and silence and the smell of wet soil and new growth pushing up through the mud. Mountains in every direction, water still glistening in the valleys below, birds already circling overhead. You are standing at the beginning of everything. The world has been reset, washed clean, born again from the water. And you, the old man who built a boat when there was no water, you're the one holding the first chapter of the new story. The first thing you do is build an altar, not a house, not a shelter, an altar. You take some of the clean animals and offer a sacrifice to God, a thank you, a recognition, an acknowledgement that you and your family are alive not because of your skill or your strength or your intelligence, but because you listened when everyone else turned away. The smoke rises into the clean sky and God makes a promise. Never again. Never again will he destroy all life with a flood. Never again will the waters cover the earth. And as a sign of that promise, something appears in the sky that you've never seen before. A rainbow, an arc of color stretching from horizon to horizon. The first one in history. The seal of a covenant between God and every living thing on earth. That's your story. The man who built a boat when there was no water. The man who listened to a voice nobody else could hear. The man who endured decades of mockery and kept building anyway. The man who loaded animals onto a vessel that the whole world called madness and sailed through the destruction of everything he knew. You weren't chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because you were faithful. And the difference between you and every other person on that drowned planet came down to one thing. When God spoke, you picked up your tools and started building. While everyone else laughed, you hammered. While everyone else mocked, you measured. While everyone else lived as if tomorrow was guaranteed, you prepared for the flood that nobody believed was coming. And when the rain finally fell, you were finally ready. That's Noah, the man who saved the world by building a box and trusting the voice inside the storm. "10 men kneel before you begging for food. They don't recognize you, but you recognize them. They're your brothers. The same brothers who threw you into a pit and sold you to slave traders when you were 17. That was 22 years ago. Now you're the second most powerful man in the world, and they're on their knees starving with no idea who you are. This is how you got here. You're 17 years old and your father loves you more than your 11 brothers combined. Everyone knows it. He doesn't even try to hide it. He made you a coat, a long ornamental robe with colors that nobody else in the family wears. A coat that says you're the favorite. You wear it proudly because you're 17, and you don't understand yet what jealousy can do to the people closest to you. Your brothers look at that coat and they see everything their father never gave them. They can't even say a kind word to you anymore. Then the dreams start. In the first dream, you and your brothers are binding wheat in the field. Your bundle of wheat stands upright, and all 11 of their bundles bow down to yours. You tell them about it because you're young and naive, and you think dreams are just interesting stories. Their faces darken. In the second dream, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars all bow down to you. Even your father raises an eyebrow at that one. Your brothers don't raise eyebrows, they raise hatred, because from their perspective, their little brother just told them he's going to rule over all of them one day, and they decide that day will never come. Your father sends you to check on your brothers in the fields near Shechem. You walk for days to find them. When they see you coming across the open land, still wearing that colorful coat your father gave you, they don't see a brother. They see everything they despise. They grab you. They strip the coat off your back. They throw you into an empty cistern, a dry pit in the ground, and they sit down to eat lunch while you scream from below. Your own brothers eating bread while you beg for your life at the bottom of a hole. Then they see a caravan, merchants heading to Egypt with spices and perfumes on their camels. And one of your brothers has an idea. Why kill him when we can profit from him? They pull you out of the pit and sell you. 20 pieces of silver. That's your price. The price of a teenage slave. The merchants chain you and add you to their cargo, and you watch your brothers disappear into the distance as the caravan heads south toward Egypt. They take your coat, dip it in goat's blood, and bring it to your father. He believes you're dead. He tears his clothes and mourns for weeks. And you, chained to a camel train, heading into a foreign country where you know no one and speak no language, are completely alone for the first time in your life. Egypt swallows you whole, you're dragged through markets where people bid on human beings like livestock. You're sold to a man named Potiphar, captain of the royal guard, one of the most powerful officials in the kingdom. You go from favorite son to household slave in a matter of weeks. You scrub floors, you haul water, you do whatever you're told by people who see you as property, not a person. But something in you refuses to break. You work harder than anyone else in that house. You learn the language faster than anyone expects. You learn the customs, the culture, the way Egyptians think and trade and organize. You earn trust through sheer relentless competence. And slowly, impossibly, you rise. Potiphar sees something in you that his other servants don't have, a quality that transcends slavery. He puts you in charge of his entire household. Everything he owns passes through your hands. For the first time since the pit, life is starting to work again. Then Potiphar's wife notices you. Day after day, she tries to pull you into her bed. Day after day, you refuse. You refuse because it would be a betrayal of the man who trusted you with everything he has. And one day, when you're alone in the house, she grabs your cloak. You pull away and run, leaving the garment in her hands. And just like that, the second coat in your life is used to destroy you. She tells her husband you attacked her. She holds up your cloak as proof, and Potiphar, the man who trusted you, throws you into prison. You did the right thing, and it cost you everything. Again, prison. A foreign prison in a foreign country. Locked up for a crime you didn't commit. Thousands of miles from a home where your father thinks you're dead, and your brothers have forgotten you exist. Most people would break. Most people would give up on whatever power they believed was guiding their life. You don't. In prison, you do what you did in Potiphar's house. You work, you earn trust, you rise. The warden puts you in charge of the other prisoners. And then one night, two of them have dreams they can't understand. One is the royal cupbearer, the man who serves drinks directly to the king. The other is the royal baker. Both were imprisoned for offending the ruler. Each has a dream on the same night. You interpret them. The cupbearer will be restored to his position in 3 days. The baker will be executed in 3 days. Both predictions come true exactly as you said. You ask the cupbearer one thing before he leaves. Remember me. Tell the king about me. Get me out of here. And the cupbearer walks out of that prison, returns to the palace, and forgets you completely for 2 full years. 2 years. 730 days of waiting in a cell for a promise that was never kept, forgotten by the one person who could have helped you. You're now 30 years old, 13 years since your brothers threw you in a pit, 13 years of slavery and prison and betrayal and silence. And then, like a bolt from the sky, everything changes. The king of Egypt has 2 dreams that terrify him. 7 fat cows eaten by 7 thin cows. 7 full heads of grain swallowed by 7 dried ones. Every wise man in the kingdom tries to interpret them and fails. And finally, 2 years too late, the cupbearer remembers the young man from prison who got his dream exactly right. They pull you out of the dungeon. You shave, because Egyptians don't tolerate beards in the royal court. You change your prison rags for clean clothes, and you stand before the most powerful ruler on earth, a man who commands armies and builds pyramids and holds the life of every Egyptian in his hands. He tells you his dreams, and you tell him what no one else in the kingdom could. 7 years of abundance are coming. Harvests so massive the country won't be able to contain them. And then 7 years of famine, so severe it will erase everything the good years produced. The Nile will shrink, the crops will fail, entire nations will starve, unless you store the grain now. The king doesn't just listen, he acts. He takes the signet ring off his own finger and puts it on yours. He drapes fine linen robes over your shoulders. He hangs a gold chain around your neck. He gives you a chariot and authority over the entire land of Egypt. Everyone in the kingdom will answer to you. In one afternoon, you go from a forgotten prisoner in a dungeon to the second most powerful person in the known world. You're 30 years old, 13 years of suffering, and it all led to this room in this moment. For 7 years, you traveled the length of Egypt, building storehouses, collecting grain, organizing the largest food reserve the ancient world has ever seen. The harvests are so enormous that you stop counting because the numbers are beyond measure. You marry. You have 2 sons. You name the first Manasseh because God made you forget all your suffering. You name the second Ephraim because God made you fruitful in the land of your affliction. The good years feel like a dream. Then the good years end, and the famine begins. It's worse than anyone imagined. The crops die. The rivers shrink, the surrounding nations begin to starve, and Egypt, the only country that prepared, becomes the only source of food in the region. People come from every direction to buy grain, and among them, walking into your throne room with empty bags and desperate eyes, are 10 men you haven't seen in 22 years, your brothers. They bow before you with their faces to the ground, exactly the way your wheat dream predicted when you were 17. They don't recognize you. You were a teenager the last time they saw you. Now you're clean-shaven, dressed in Egyptian linen, wearing a gold chain, speaking a different language, sitting on a throne. They have no idea. You recognize them instantly. Every face, every voice. The men who threw you in a pit and sold you for silver and told your father you were dead. They're standing in front of you, bowing, calling you Lord, begging for food, and you have the power to do anything you want to them. You could imprison them. You could starve them. You could execute them and no one would question it. Instead, you test them. You accuse them of being spies. You demand they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, the only other son of your mother, the one brother who had no part in your betrayal. You keep one of them as a hostage and send the rest home. And secretly, you put their money back in their grain sacks. They return with Benjamin, your little brother, now a grown man, standing before you for the first time in over 2 decades. You have to leave the room because the emotion hits you so hard, you can't hold it together. You go into a private room and weep. You wash your face. You come back. You serve them a feast and you give Benjamin 5 times more food than the others, watching to see if the old jealousy rises in them the way it rose against you. It doesn't. Something has changed. You test them one final time. You plant a silver cup in Benjamin's sack and send soldiers to catch them on the road. When the cup is found, you declare that Benjamin will become your slave. And this is the moment that breaks the story open. Your brother Judah, the same one who suggested selling you into slavery 22 years ago, steps forward. He doesn't run. He doesn't abandon Benjamin the way they abandoned you. He begs you to take him instead. He offers himself as a slave so that Benjamin can go free. Because if Benjamin doesn't come home, their father will die of grief. The man who sold one brother is now willing to become a slave to save another. You can't hold it anymore. You send every Egyptian out of the room, and standing alone before your brothers for the first time since they threw you in that pit, you break. You weep so loudly the entire palace hears it, and through the tears you say the words that have been trapped inside you for 22 years. I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? Your brothers can't speak. They're frozen in terror. The brother they sold into slavery is the ruler of Egypt. The man who controls whether they live or starve is the boy from the pit. And then you say the thing that no one expected. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, to save lives, to bring us to this exact moment. Don't be afraid. I forgive you. You send for your father. Wagons loaded with food and supplies and Egyptian gifts head north toward Canaan. When the wagons arrive and your brothers tell your father the news, the old man's heart nearly stops. Joseph is alive, his son, the boy he mourned for 22 years. The child he believed was torn apart by wild animals. He's alive, and he's the ruler of Egypt. Your father doesn't believe it at first. How could he? But when he sees the wagons, the provisions, the proof that only a man of immense power could send, something reignites inside him. He gathers everything he has, every animal, every servant, every grandchild, and begins the long journey south to Egypt. You ride your chariot out to meet him on the road, in Goshen. And when you see the old man approaching, frail and gray and trembling, you jump from the chariot and run to him. You fall on his neck and weep, and he holds you the way he held you when you were a boy in the colorful coat. 22 years of separation, of grief, of silence, ending in one embrace on a dusty road. That's your story. Sold by your brothers at 17, enslaved, falsely accused, imprisoned, forgotten, and then elevated to the second highest throne in the world just in time to save the lives of the very people who destroyed yours. You didn't become powerful to take revenge. You became powerful to provide. The pit, the chains, the prison, the years of silence, all of it was the road to this room where 10 men kneel before you and you choose mercy over justice. That's Joseph, the boy in the pit who became the man on the throne, the slave who saved a nation, the brother who forgave the unforgivable. You're sitting on a hillside watching sheep. That's your life, every single day. While your older brothers are off fighting in a war, you're here, alone, with a flock of animals that don't care about you, and a sling you've been practicing with since you were old enough to hold one. You're the youngest of 8 sons, the smallest, the one nobody takes seriously. Your father barely remembers to mention your name when people ask about his family. Your brothers treat you like an errand boy, the runt of the family, too small to fight, too young to matter. In a family of warriors, you're the kid who watches sheep, and right now on this hillside outside Bethlehem, with dust under your fingernails and wool on your clothes, that's all anyone expects you'll ever be. But these hills have taught you things nobody knows about, things that would change their minds if they ever bothered to ask. Last spring, a lion came for your flock, a full-grown lion with jaws that could snap bone. It grabbed a lamb right in front of you and started dragging it away. You didn't run. You didn't freeze. You didn't call for help because there was nobody to call. You chased it down, grabbed the lion by its mane with your bare hands, and beat it until it dropped the lamb. Then you killed it alone, with your hands and your staff. A few months later, a bear came. Same thing. You went after it and you won. Nobody saw it. Nobody cheered. Nobody wrote a song about it. There were no witnesses to tell the story. Just you and the dead predator and a flock of sheep that went right back to grazing as if nothing happened. The hillside keeps its secrets. Your father calls you in from the field one morning. He hands you a sack of roasted grain, 10 loaves of bread, and 10 blocks of cheese. Go find your brothers. They're camped in the valley of Elah with King Saul's army, fighting the Philistines. Bring them food. Check on them. Come back and tell me how they're doing. That's it. That's your mission. Delivery boy. You leave the sheep with another shepherd, pack up the food, and start walking toward the valley. The journey takes you through rocky terrain, past olive groves and terraced hillsides, down from the highlands toward the lowlands where the Philistines are pushing into your people's territory. You have no idea that you're walking toward the most important moment of your life. You reach the valley and it takes your breath away. Two massive armies camped on opposite hills, staring at each other across a wide valley with a dry creek bed running through the middle. The Israelite army on one side, the Philistines on the other, thousands of soldiers on each hill, tents stretching as far as you can see, weapons gleaming in the sun, campfire smoke rising into the sky, war banners snapping in the wind. You've never seen anything like it. You find your brothers among the soldiers and hand over the food. They barely acknowledge you. You're the little brother who should be back home, with the sheep where he belongs. But before they can send you away, something happens that changes everything. A voice echoes across the valley, deep, thunderous, shaking the air itself like a storm rolling through the hills. You look down at the valley floor and you see him. A man, if you can even call him that, standing between the two armies. He's enormous, nearly 10 feet tall, covered head to toe in bronze armor that catches the sun and blinds you. Bronze helmet, bronze chest plate weighing over 120 pounds, bronze leg guards, a javelin slung across his back, a spear in his hand with a shaft as thick as a weaver's beam, and an iron tip that weighs 15 pounds by itself. A shield bearer walks in front of him carrying a shield the size of a wooden door. His name is Goliath, champion of Gath, the greatest warrior the Philistines have ever produced. And he's been doing this every morning and every evening for 40 straight days. His challenge is simple. Send one man to fight me. If your man wins, the Philistines become your servants. If I win, you become ours. One fight, one winner. War decided by single combat. He screams it across the valley floor and the sound bounces off the hills like thunder rolling from one mountain to the other. And every single Israelite soldier, thousands of them, including your brothers, including the king himself, the tallest man in the kingdom, turns away. Nobody moves. Nobody volunteers. Nobody even looks the giant in the eye. 40 days of this. 40 mornings and 40 evenings of a giant mocking an entire nation, and not one person has the courage to step forward. You watch the soldiers around you. Grown men, trained warriors with real swords and real armor, shaking with fear, whispering about the giant like children afraid of the dark. And something inside you shifts, something that has been building since the lion and the bear and every quiet night on the hillside. You start asking questions. Who is this man? Why is everyone afraid of him? What happens to the person who kills him? The soldiers around you tell you the king has offered a massive reward. Wealth, his own daughter in marriage, tax exemption for your entire family. But nobody has claimed it because nobody wants to die. Your brothers hear you asking and they're furious. Your oldest brother Eliab turns on you with disgust. Why are you even here? Who's watching the sheep? You just came down here to watch the battle like some tourist. You're arrogant. You're reckless. Go home. But you keep asking, and word reaches the king's tent. There's a boy in the camp who isn't afraid. Bring him to me. You stand before King Saul in his war tent, the tallest man in Israel, the anointed king, the man who was chosen specifically to lead his people against enemies exactly like this one. And he looks at you with pity. You can't fight this giant, he says. You're a boy. You're not a soldier. You've never worn armor. You've never swung a sword. In combat, how could you possibly face a warrior who has been fighting and killing since before you were born? And you tell him about the lion, about the bear, about what happens on the hillside when nobody is watching and nobody is counting and nobody cares. You tell him that the same power that delivered a lion into your hands and a bear into your hands will deliver this giant too. You believe that with every cell in your body. Not because you're brave, because you've already been tested and the tests nobody saw were the ones that prepared you for this. The king agrees, not because he believes in you, because he has no other option. 40 days and nobody has volunteered. A shepherd boy willing to die is better than an entire army afraid to fight. He gives you his own armor. bronze helmet placed on your head, chainmail coat draped over your shoulders, sword strapped to your side. You put it all on and try to walk, you stumble, you can barely move. The armor weighs more than half your body weight, designed for a man twice your size who has trained with it for years. You can't fight in this. You can't even breathe in this. You take it off, all of it. Helmet, mail, sword, everything. You hand it back. You don't need his armor. You don't need his sword. You don't need his strategy or his weapons or his way of fighting. You need what got you here, your shepherd's bag, your sling, and 5 smooth stones from the creek bed in the valley. You walk to the creek that runs through the valley floor. The water is shallow and clear, running over pebbles worn smooth by centuries of current. You kneel down and pick through the stones carefully, choosing 5 that are perfectly smooth, perfectly round, perfectly weighted for the pocket of your sling. You put them in your leather shepherd's pouch, one by one, 5 stones. You grip your wooden staff in one hand and your sling in the other, and you start walking across the valley floor toward the Philistine line. Alone, no armor, no sword, no shield, no army behind you. A teenage shepherd with a bag of rocks and a strip of leather walking toward the most feared warrior in the known world. The entire Israelite army watches from the hillside above. The entire Philistine army watches from the other. 2 nations holding their breath. Goliath sees you coming and can't believe what he's looking at. He squints, he looks you over. A kid, a ruddy-faced, smooth-skinned teenager carrying a wooden stick and a leather pouch. He's insulted. He's disgusted. He's been standing in this valley for 40 days demanding a warrior, and they send him a boy who smells like sheep. Am I a dog that you come at me with a stick? He curses you by his gods. He curses your people. He curses everything you believe in. Come closer, boy. I'll feed your flesh to the birds of the air and the wild animals. His voice shakes the ground beneath your feet. His shield bearer steps aside so the giant can get a clear look at his prey. Every eye on both hillsides is watching. Every soldier from both armies is standing now. This is the moment that changes everything. You don't flinch. You don't slow down. You shout back across the valley floor, and your voice cracks because you're still a teenager. But every word hits harder than any weapon Goliath has ever carried. You come at me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come at you in the name of something bigger than anything you can carry or forge or sharpen. Today, everyone watching will know that battles aren't won with swords and spears. They're won by something you can't hold in your hand. And then you do something that shocks every person watching. Instead of bracing yourself, instead of taking a defensive stance, instead of waiting for the giant to come to you, you run straight at him, full speed. A shepherd boy sprinting toward a giant. Goliath starts moving toward you. The ground trembles with each step he takes. His armor clangs like iron bells. His spear is raised, ready to impale you before you ever get close. He's 9 feet of bronze and iron and muscle and fury, and he's about to bring all of it crashing down on a shepherd boy who weighs less than his chest plate alone. You reach into your bag while running. Your fingers find a stone, one smooth stone. You load it into the leather pocket of the sling. You've done this 10,000 times on the hillside, at birds, at targets, at wolves circling your flock, at lions and bears. Your arm knows the motion the way your lungs know how to breathe. You swing the sling once around your head, twice, and you release. The stone flies. It crosses the distance between you in less than a heartbeat. It hits Goliath directly in the forehead, the one spot where his bronze helmet doesn't cover. The only gap in 9 feet of armor. A 1-inch window between the metal and the flesh, and you found it from 40 yards away at a dead sprint. The stone sinks deep into his skull. His eyes go white. His massive legs buckle underneath him. 9 feet and hundreds of pounds of bronze-covered warrior crashes face first into the valley floor. The impact sends dust into the air, and then silence. Absolute silence. 2 entire armies. Tens of thousands of men holding their breath at the same time. The giant is on the ground. He's not getting up, and you, a shepherd boy from Bethlehem with a sling and a single stone, are still standing. You don't wait. You don't celebrate. You sprint to the fallen giant. He's face down in the dirt, the greatest champion the Philistines have ever produced, motionless. You stand over him. You don't have a sword of your own, so you take his. You reach down and pull Goliath's own massive blade from its sheath, a sword so heavy most men couldn't lift it with 2 hands, and you use the giant's own weapon to finish what the stone started. You raise the giant's severed head for both armies to see. The proof. The impossible made visible. A boy and a stone and a sling defeated what an entire kingdom could not. The Philistine army shatters. Thousands of warriors who were ready to conquer Israel see their champion dead at the feet of a teenager, and they run. They drop their weapons, abandon their tents, leave their supplies behind, and flee toward the gates of Gath and Ekron. Panic spreads through their ranks like fire through dry grass. The Israelite army erupts from the hillside. Men who were paralyzed with fear 5 minutes ago are now screaming war cries, charging down the hill, chasing the Philistines across miles of open ground. Bodies and abandoned weapons litter the road from the valley all the way to the Philistine cities. The standoff that lasted 40 days ends in 40 seconds, and it all started with one stone thrown by the kid nobody believed in. The celebration lasts for days. Songs are written about you. Women come out of the towns and cities dancing and singing your name in the streets. You're brought before the king carrying the giant's weapon. The boy who was too small to wear the king's armor has done what no soldier in the kingdom could do. Your brothers, the same ones who told you to go home, who called you arrogant, who looked at you with contempt, stand in stunned silence watching their little brother become a legend. Your father hears the news back in Bethlehem. The shepherd boy nobody thought about is now the most famous person in the nation, and this is only the beginning of your story. The giant was just the first chapter, but here's what nobody talks about: the moment before the stone left the sling, the moment when you were running full speed at a giant who could split you in half with one swing of his spear, the moment when every rational thought in your brain was screaming at you to turn around, to run back to your sheep, to go home where you're safe, where nobody expects anything from you, where you can live a quiet life and die old. You didn't have a guarantee. You didn't have proof it would. You work. You had faith. And the difference between a shepherd and a king, between a footnote and a legend, between watching from the hillside and walking into the valley, came down to one single decision: to keep running forward when everything in the world was telling you to stop. You started that morning as a delivery boy carrying bread and cheese for your brothers who didn't want to see you. You ended it carrying the head of a giant in front of two armies who would never forget your name. Not because you were the strongest, not because you were the tallest or the best trained or the most experienced, not because you had the finest armor or the sharpest sword. You won because you showed up when nobody else would, because you trusted what you'd learned alone on the hillside when nobody was watching, because the same hands that protected sheep from lions and bears turned out to be the same hands that could bring down a giant. The skills nobody valued, the courage nobody saw, the faith nobody shared, the lonely practice nobody counted. That's what won the battle in the Valley of Elah, and that's what changed history forever. You started as a shepherd, the youngest son, the smallest in the family, the forgotten one watching sheep on a hill while the real men went to war. You ended the day as the most famous person in the kingdom, carrying a giant sword with your name on the lips of every person in every town in the land. And the only thing that changed between morning and evening was that someone finally put you in a position where you could show what you were made of. Turns out, the kid nobody believed in was the most dangerous person in the entire valley. They just didn't know it yet, and by the time they figured it out, the giant was already on the ground. You're born different. Your mother knew it before you took your first breath. An angel appeared to her and told her that the child growing inside her would be special, set apart, dedicated to God from the womb, a Nazirite. There are rules: no wine, no unclean food, and the most important one: no razor will ever touch your head. Your hair's the seal of a covenant between you and something bigger than yourself. You don't understand it yet. You're just a baby in a small Israelite village called Zorah, and the Philistines rule everything around you. But one day, you'll begin to change that. One day, your name will be the most feared word in the Philistine language. You grow up and your hair grows with you. Long, thick, wild, 7 heavy locks that hang past your shoulders and mark you as different from every other boy in the village. But it's not the hair that makes you different. It's what's inside you. The first time you feel it, you're walking through the vineyards near Timnah and a young lion charges at you. Full speed, jaws open, and something moves through your body like fire through dry wood. You grab the lion with your bare hands and tear it apart like it was made of cloth. You stand there, breathing hard, staring at the carcass of a lion you just destroyed with nothing but your hands, and you realize something terrifying. You're not like other people. You've never been like other people. The strength inside you isn't muscle. It isn't training. It's something divine, something placed in you before you were born. And from that moment on, you carry it everywhere like a fire that never goes out. Your strength is beyond anything human. You can snap ropes like thread. You can tear iron chains like paper. You can lift things that 10 men together couldn't move, and you use it. For 20 years, you are the nightmare of the Philistines, the one-man army they can't stop, can't catch, can't contain. When they come for you in the city of Gaza, you rip the city gates off their hinges, posts and all, and carry them to the top of a hill, the entire gate on your shoulders. When 1,000 Philistine soldiers surround you at Lehi, armed with swords and spears, you look at the ground and find the jawbone of a donkey. A bone! A discarded animal bone in the dirt, and you pick it up and kill every single one of them. 1,000 trained soldiers, 1 man, 1 bone. By the time you're done, the hillside is silent and you're standing in the middle of it all, the jawbone still in your hand. not a scratch on your body. The Philistines don't just fear you, they're terrified of you. You are the weapon they have no answer for. And for 20 years, you are untouchable. But your strength has a shadow, and the shadow's name is weakness. You've always had a weakness for the wrong woman. It started in Timnah, where you married a Philistine woman against your parents' wishes, and it ended in betrayal and fire. It continued in Gaza, where you visited a woman and nearly got killed because of it. And now, in the Valley of Sorek, it happens again. You meet a woman named Delilah, and everything you are, everything you've built, everything you've been given, begins to unravel. Delilah is beautiful. That's the first thing you notice. She moves through a room like light through water, and every part of you that has ever been weak, every part that ignores the voice telling you to walk away, locks onto her like a moth to a flame. The second thing about Delilah is that she's dangerous. More dangerous than any army the Philistines have ever assembled against you. But you can't see that because the first thing blinds you to everything else. The Philistine lords come to her in secret. Each one of them offers her 1,100 pieces of silver, 5 lords, 5,500 pieces total. That's more money than a priest earns in 100 lifetimes. The price of your destruction. Find out where his strength comes from. Find his weakness. Help us capture the man who has humiliated our entire nation for 2 decades. And Delilah, the woman sleeping in your arms every night, says yes. She starts asking, where does your great strength come from? How could someone bind you and make you helpless? The first time she asks, you lie. You tell her that if someone ties you with 7 fresh bowstrings, you'll become weak like any ordinary man. She does it while you sleep. She calls out that the Philistines are coming. You snap the bowstrings like they're nothing. She pouts. You laugh. It's a game to you. The second time, you tell her new ropes. Same result. You break them off your arms like thread. The third time, you get closer to the truth. You tell her to weave your 7 locks of hair into a loom. She does it. You wake up and pull the entire loom out of the wall. Each time there are men hiding in the room waiting to take you. Each time you're too strong, and each time Delilah gets angrier. Then comes the moment that ruins everything. She turns on the tears. She turns on the words. How can you say you love me when you won't trust me with the truth? You've lied to me 3 times. Your heart isn't with me. She says it every day, morning and night. The nagging becomes a weapon sharper than any sword the Philistines have ever made. Day after day after day, she presses you, and your soul, the scripture says, is vexed to death. You're so tired of the fighting, so tired of the questions, so tired of keeping the one secret that keeps you alive. And in a moment of exhaustion, a moment when the noise in your head is louder than the voice of wisdom, you tell her everything. No razor has ever touched my head. I've been a Nazirite since the day I was born. If my hair is cut, my strength will leave me, and I'll become as weak as any other man. You say it and you see something change in her eyes, a flash of something cold, something calculating, but you're too tired and too blind and too in love to recognize it for what it is. She knows this. Time is different. She can feel the truth in your voice, and she sends word to the Philistine lords. Come back one more time. He's told me everything. And they come, with the silver in their hands. That night she pulls your head into her lap. She strokes your hair, the 7 locks that have never been cut, the seal of your covenant, the source of everything you are. You fall asleep in her arms, and it's the last time you'll ever feel safe. She calls for a man, a barber. He comes into the room while you sleep and shaves all 7 locks from your head. The hair falls to the floor like dead leaves, and with it, something invisible leaves your body. Something enormous and warm and powerful drains out of you like water from a broken vessel. The strength of God departing from a man who broke his last promise. She screams. The Philistines are upon you. You jump up, ready to fight like every other time, ready to snap whatever they've used to bind you, ready to scatter them like dust. But this time, your arms don't work. This time, your muscles have nothing behind them. You push and nothing moves. You pull and nothing breaks. You reach for the power that has been with you since birth, and it's gone. It's simply gone. And the Philistines pour into the room, dozens of them, men who have feared you for 20 years, men whose friends and brothers you've killed with your bare hands. They grab you, they pin you down, and then they do something that makes sure you'll never forget what you've lost. They gouge out your eyes. Darkness. That's your world now. Complete, permanent, irreversible darkness. They bind you in bronze chains and drag you to Gaza, the same city where you once tore the gates off the walls and carried them up a hill on your shoulders. But you're not tearing anything now. They throw you into a prison and chain you to a grinding wheel, a millstone, the work of a donkey, not a man. Round and round and round you walk, grinding grain for the people who conquered. You, the strongest man who ever lived, reduced to a blind slave pushing a stone in circles in the dark. Your feet wear a groove in the prison floor. Your hands blister and callous on the chain. Day after day, week after week, month after month, the grinding never stops, the darkness never lifts, the chains never loosen, and in that endless circle, you have nothing but time to think about every choice that led you here, every warning you ignored, every lie you told, and every truth you gave away to the wrong person. This is what it feels like to lose everything you were given because you couldn't say no to the one person you should never have trusted. But in the darkness, something happens that nobody expects. Your hair starts to grow back, slowly, inch by inch, lock by lock. The Philistines don't notice. Why would they? He's blind. He's chained. He's broken. What difference does his hair make now? But you feel it. In the darkness of that prison, pushing that wheel day after day, you feel the weight returning to your scalp. And with it, you feel something else. Something faint at first, like a distant ember in a cold fireplace. A warmth that starts in your chest and spreads outward through your arms and into your hands. The strength is coming back, and this time, you know exactly what to do with it. The day comes, a great festival in the temple of Dagon, the Philistine god. 3,000 people packed into the building and on the roof. Every ruler, every lord, every important Philistine in the land. They're celebrating your capture, celebrating the fall of the man who terrorized them for 20 years. And for entertainment, they bring you out, the great Samson, blind, chained, stumbling. They parade you through the temple like a trophy. The crowd roars with laughter, they mock you, they spit at you. The mighty warrior reduced to a sideshow for their amusement. You ask the boy leading you by the hand to place you between the two main pillars that hold up the temple. Just let me lean against them, you say. Rest for a moment. The boy doesn't think twice. He guides your hands to the cold stone pillars, one on your right and one on your left. You wrap your fingers around them. You feel the stone. You feel the weight of the entire building resting on these two columns. 3,000 people above you. Every Philistine ruler in the land around you. And in your arms, you feel the fire, the old fire. The strength that you squandered on pride and lust and foolishness returned to you one final time for one final act. You pray. For the first time in a long time, you pray with everything you have. Not for escape, not for freedom, not for your eyes back, not for revenge, though revenge is standing all around you in the form of 3,000 Philistines who are laughing at your blindness. You pray for strength one more time. Just once more. Let me finish what I was born to do. Let this final act mean something. And you feel it, the warmth, the fire, the power flooding back through your arms like a river breaking through a dam. And then you push, both arms, every fiber of your being, everything you were given and squandered and begged to have returned. You push the pillars apart and the stone cracks and the ceiling groans and the walls shudder and buckle, and the entire temple of Dagon, the greatest structure the Philistines have ever built, collapses inward in a thundering avalanche of stone and dust and screaming that can be heard for miles. 3,000 Philistines die in the collapse. Every ruler, every lord, more enemies in your death than in all the years of your life combined, and you die with them, buried under the rubble of the temple, blind and chained, but free in the only way that matters. The boy who was born with a promise, the man who broke every vow he ever made, the warrior who was invincible against armies but helpless against a woman's tears, the prisoner who found his way back to God in the darkness of a grinding cell. All of it ends here, under the stones of a pagan temple, in the loudest silence the ancient world has ever heard. Your family comes to collect your body from the rubble. They carry you home and bury you between Zorah and Eshtal in your father's tomb. The village where it started is where it ends. The boy with the wild hair and the impossible strength returned to the soil that raised him. 20 years as a judge of Israel, 20 years of victories that should have been enough. But it was never about the strength, it was about what you did with it. And you did extraordinary things and terrible things and foolish things and one final, devastating, magnificent thing. That's your story. Born with a gift nobody else had. Raised with a purpose nobody else could fulfill. Given power that could have freed an entire nation. And you wasted most of it chasing the wrong things. You broke every rule. You trusted the wrong people. You told your deepest secret to the person most likely to use it against you. But in the end, in the absolute darkness of a prison cell, pushing a stone in circles, you found something you'd lost a long time ago. And when the moment came, when the pillars were in your hands and the prayer was on your lips, you proved that the last act of a broken man can be greater than all the victories of an unbroken one. That's Samson, the strongest man who ever lived and the weakest.